What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the office. Some things have changed since you guys were last here. So today we're gonna be going over some of the changes that have happened with me recently since the last video, as well as going over multifamily investing today. As you can see, I have an office admin now. She's wearing a cloak today, she's not in. And then I'll keep you up to date on where we're at with Warren Street, and then I'm gonna go over how I got into multifamily investing and go over each property, the numbers on them, and then my plans going forward today. All right, guys, so let's just go over the first one right here. So Orange Street, this was back in 21. Bought this thing for $392,000. The down payment was $88,000, so 25%. So my balance was $302, which left me with my monthly payment of $2,200. That's with insurance, taxes, and not including some of my expenses, which I'll get you down here. But $2,200 is what I pay on auto pay every single month. Key takeaway on this one, my interest rate is at 2.8%. So this was during a time when the rates were really, really low, and I happened to capture the purchase price right before these homes in the Manchester market started to go nuts. So my rent, it's a 3-unit. There's a 1-bed, 1-bath, a 2-bed, 1-bath, and a 3-bed, 2-bath. Currently, I'm getting $1,100, $1,400, and $1,700. So my gross rent is $4,200 a month. Now you're gonna subtract my monthly payment of $2,200. So I gross $2,000 a month on this property right now. So now I have to include my monthly expenses. Things on your multifamily can be your quarterly water bills, if you pay the common lights, or you have to see some people pay the heat. This one's all separate utilities, so all my tenants pay that. So my monthly expenses that I'm on the hook for, though, is my common lights are $20 a month. So the quarterly water bill is $300, which comes out to $100 a month. So my net is $1,880 a month I make, and you multiply that by 12 months. I cash flow $22,560 a year on this property. All right, so I'll circle back with the red after, but this one did come with a loan with a 4-year payback schedule, which I'll circle to. A few months after that, I quickly stumbled upon Mast Road. This one was actually about a mile from my childhood neighborhood, so I knew this market really, really well on the west side, which I'll always speak on these videos. In Southern New Hampshire, I personally am obsessed with the west side of Manchester. So Mast Road, I bought in 21 as well. This one we purchased for $400,000. When I say we, this is where I started to get a partner, my best friend Austin. I bought this one for $400,000, a down payment of $100,000, which is 25%. So my balance is $300,000. Same time, we bought this a few months later. The rates, this is where you start to see the timeline of the rates. They started to go up. So we got this one at 3.625, which is still really advantageous, but I would say that you can just start to see this was like a 4-month difference that they were just starting to go up. So this building is also a 3-unit. It's all 3 units. It's a stacked building, or 2-bed, 1-bath, 2-bed, 1-bath, and a 2-bed, 1-bath. The first floor, I had lived in there for a bit, and then I renovated it and did it more of a bachelor pad. That one is very high end for the market area. So that one's $1,900 a month. Washer and dryer is included in that unit. The second floor brings in $1,600, and the third floor we had renovated, but done much more of a third floor renovation that was, you know, it was fitting for that environment of what we did. That one we also get $1,600. So our gross rents are $5,100 a month. And then once you take away our monthly payment, $2,200 also on that property, we are left with $2,900 a month. This property, though, also came with coin operated washer and dryer machines. So we ended up having our common lights we're on the hook for, but our quarterly water bill is $300, but it's offset every month. Our washer and dryers in the basement for the second and third floor brings in about $100 a month. So that's negated. So now, is that even a word? And then, so our net on this property is $2,880 a month. Times that by 12, we cash flow $34,560 a year. So looking at these two, those were back to back. And then we kind of went in a lull period where we started to decide what we wanted to do with these buildings. So we had a few months where we renovated the third floor there. And then I like to call all my properties, once they're done and where they need to be and stabilized, on autopilot. So these both were on autopilot. So then after we got into the new year for 22, we hadn't purchased anything for a little bit. We were still figuring out how we were gonna go ahead and make our partnership and structure work, but we stumbled across a cheap condo in Manchester, basically the west side, out behind Front Street. The reason we got this condo is it's kind of just out of sight, out of mind for us. It was cheap money to buy into it. It was 20% down. We also knew that buying it at 160 that we had saw at this time in 22, that a lot of those condos in there were going around 200. This one did need a little work, but we knew we could just keep it on autopilot with the current tenants and still make us some cash flow. So we owed a balance of 116 on it. So that left us with, at a 4% interest rate, $900 for a monthly payment. The kicker on this one is there is an HOA because it's a condo, but the benefit to that is that we don't do anything on that property. We just set it and forget it with our auto pays. So we're all into it for $1,200 a month, but we generate on the 2-bed, 1-bath, $1,500. So we, after everything, our gross rent, and then subtract the 900 plus 300, we're at a total of net income $300, so $3,600 a year. So it's really not like a huge cash cow or anything like that for us, but you know, we do have plans to go ahead this year, reno it. So the plan on this one though is that we're gonna dump probably around $15,000 into this property. So we'll then up our new rent to $2,000 a month, which will add another $500 or $6,000 a year. So it'll take us about 3 years to get that cash on cash return. But at that point, this property is no longer gonna be at all an issue with, you know, there is some things there that we're worried about in the future if we don't handle them now, but we also then project that the market value of it will be 240, so we'll gain some equity out of this property as well. All right, so going into 23, this is where we had 2 big scores. So we bought the pizza shop, Venice, that we've talked about before. This deal we got on seller financed. So for anyone who doesn't know what seller finance is, they owned it outright. They were willing to bank us essentially. We had to give them a deposit, which was $60,000. So we owed a balance of $200,000 to them, but it was a pretty shitty property and needed quite a bit of work. So we knew that if we dumped in some cash into it, that it would appraise out quite a bit more. So they wanted to offload it. We went ahead, we dumped 80 grand cash into this place. So our new balance, you know, that we're all into it, is the 280. And then you have to remind ourselves that we also gave them 60 up front on the down payment to them. So 340 total. When we went ahead and got it refied, this is a mixed use building, so we did commercial loan, so they really borrow based on the asset, not the person, which is really nice for us. So it appraised at $425,000, and we can take out a loan from them if commercial is 25% down. So that's a loan to value of 75%, which is $318. Now keep in mind, all our in costs right now, we owe her $200, and then we have 80 sunk costs in there, hard costs. So $318 is what the new loan that they'd give us. So they cut us a check essentially for that. That ended up going to her, that $200. And then we ended up getting, after, you know, there's some costs that are baked into those with the commercial process. You know, they had to do the EPA test, which was $5 grand. They had to do a few other tests. So we ended up getting our cash back. We ended up getting a check at that closing though for $85,000. And then our new loan, so that is our current loan on the place, $318.75. So our monthly payment is $2,500. Our interest rate is 7%. Now mind you, 23, the interest rates have now been climbing quite a bit. So we knew that the purchase price is where we made the money on the deal. And then it's 2 units. We have a 3-bed, 1-bath, and then the pizza shop is the pizza shop. But we get $2,500. We pay everything on that one. And then $2,750 because he also had to rent out the garage. So our gross rents are $52.50, and then subtract our mortgage, insurance, and taxes, $2,500. So we gross $2,750 when it's all said and done. And then our monthly expenses though, electric for that unit, $200, heat, $200. So our net is $2,350, and times that by 12, we make about $28,200 a year on that property. All right, so then you're gonna see these arrows, right? So this is that $85,000 I was talking about before. So when we dumped that money into the place, appraising out, we gained some equity obviously, but we did get some of our money out. And obviously some people are gonna be like, well, why is that 318 and the property appraised at 425? So why didn't you get a check for 112,000? Well, like I said, there was other costs associated with that. And then we didn't want to pull all of it out if we didn't need to. So we just left it in there to keep our balance lower. But we got an $85,000 check at closing. So essentially our reno cost back. So we were all into this property for 60K. Now remember, a typical commercial property, you need to bring 25% down. So for a $425,000 building, we would have had to bring 112 down. In this case, we didn't have, or 106,000. In this case, we only had to show up with half of that, and then we built it with sweat equity. And so during this time, it was crazy though. We then went and got Pembroke Street in 23. So this was literally a couple months right after. Someone reached out to us. It was on like the for sale by owner. This property, you know, came under contract by us. We found it at $550 purchase price. So our down payment was gonna be 20%. When we went under contract on this, we still hadn't had our money pulled out of this. So this one as well had a loan of 120K with a, or 110K with a payback of 120K. And that is an extra 10K that we had to bake in. So we had to borrow that money, 110, and we paid back 120. And we did that, we had to do that within like 2-3 months. So obviously advantageous for the person to dump some money into us. They make it back real quick. But to circle you back, so we had 85,000 that we knew we were getting from this when it was closing, and then our accounts off the rental properties alone over the course of the past couple of years, we had the extra $35,000 sitting in there, so we just pulled it. So then once we had this one locked down, we went ahead and we paid our down payment off, and then the extra 10K we owed, we paid that back. But the balance on this property, a little backstory, it's a 3-unit, but it has 4 subleases. So you can see obviously all these different crazy rents. Our monthly payment, and now mind you, this is 23, so the interest rates again, this was a regular conventional loan, 5.65. So you can see the timeline of how they all were kind of just going up. And so was the purchase price for technically a 3-unit. But what we found advantageous to this one was the structure of the building. And at this point in time, we knew that we were equipped to handle this type of building. So our monthly payment is $35.65. And then our gross rents was $7,690. We have a 3-bed, 2-bath. Detached off that unit, there's a 1-bed, 1-bath. Then there's, in the second unit, a 1-bed, 1-bath with a 2-bed, 1-bath. And then in the third unit, it's 3 1-bed, 1-baths. These are more like studios, so you can see it reflects in the lower rents. But it generates about $7,600, $7,700. Now, this is the kicker of this property. So minus our monthly mortgage of $35.65, we make about $4,125. But our monthly expenses here, so we pay most of the utilities on this whole entire property. And then we also do pay the Wi-Fi because it's just such a crazy building, which you guys will see soon in one of the next videos. We pay about $687 a month for all those expenses, which leaves us with a net of $34.38. Times that by 12 months, we make about $41,256. All right, guys, so now that I've broken down each building, I wanna go ahead and just recap. So we have property 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you add the total of all those, my cash flow on these properties, after it's all said and done, is $130,000, $176. Obviously, give or take on some of the vacancy, we've had a pretty stable cash flow with our tenants. But keep in mind, I have a partner on this. So of that, it's actually $107,000, $615, of which we're on a 60-40 split of the rents. We own the buildings 50-50, but the rents going forward in 24 are 60-40. So Kyle takes in $64,569 a year cash flow, and then Austin takes in $43,046. And the reason I say, obviously the deduction is because over here, Orange Street, this is my property outright. He also has another one which we get to use to leverage, but that's why I get to take the total of $22,000. That's not on a split. So all in, Kyle makes $87,069 a year, or monthly $7,255 cash flow on my properties, which leaves me with going from year 1, aka 2021, till now currently, I have a total evaluation of properties of just about $2.245 million. My equity in the properties, because we've also gained sweat equity, just timing of the market, when we bought them, is a little over $800,000. That obviously is split, so him and I combined each have equity of a little over $406,000. And then our debt paybacks, we owe to banks about $1.432 million. So things I've learned from now all the way back to 21 is get your LLCs going. Put each property in an LLC. I do separate ones. That's for your liability purposes. You can either hire a legal Zoom or do them yourself with the state. Pretty simple. And then get good with recurring bills and auto pay. So properties, as you continue to grow, or in general take on new bills, you don't want to miss any with all those late fees. Get good with doing your billing. Accountant, you want to make sure that with your expenses and with whatever you're going to putting into the building, you want to keep record for to help you out so that you're riding a nice area where you're not in the red and maybe not too high in the green, paying a ton on your buildings. And then stick to your model. I personally like to do the 1% rule, and I like multifamilies. I'm not into the short-term rentals, the Airbnbs. So find what works with you though. You have to ask yourself, what do I like? Vacation, figure out what works for you. And then keep the train moving. Whether you're not purchasing a property, you still can be learning about investment properties, right? So keeping that train moving, you can be learning about what do I want to buy? Do I want to buy a 3-family, a duplex, a condo? Maybe you're not handy, so you say, I need a condo because I don't want to be worrying about all the exterior parts on a property. You need to go ahead and make that decision for yourself based off of what you know your capabilities are. All right, guys, so let's just break down the reality of the situation. There's a lot of things that you can't control. I had timing in the market on my side in 21 when I bought Orange Street. I didn't have money on my side, but I had backing with a partnership like my mother. That's circumstances I can't change, which I like to always play into luck. I created a lot of luck, but I also took the opportunities of that luck on my side, and I consistently had demonstrated over time that I was putting in the hours so that over time and time again, my career had advanced. I now have hard money people who back me, my best friends, my partner, who we go in on this together. So you have to take into consideration all those things, and that's really how you can propel your career in real estate. At the end of these.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, guys, now that I've showed you the portfolio and how I've purchased all my buildings, the next video, we're gonna tap back into Warren Street. We go in for the board meeting next week, and we're gonna get the approval done so we can begin the new construction. That deal, I am using hard money, so I'm going to go over how I've used hard money and utilize my crews to build my new duplex. All right, guys, make sure you, no, I look like a dickhead. All right, make sure you like, follow, subscribe.